It's too light, no. Yeah, whole yeah, Billy. Well, we've got 0 viewers, Billy.
Yeah, I've seen.
We've got 0.
I've been watching.
Hit me up. Look at the other one now. Chat.
Yeah.
Hey, European handkeeper.
Huh?
This chat is about to start, so should be a really good one on ants of Borneo. It's part 3. Right, Callum again. It's got the ants of Borneo now.
I like this one.
Yeah. I want to be. I want to go to Borneo. I want to go to Borneo.
Yeah, I would love to go.
Yeah, this chat should be epic.
Plenty of seats, if you want seats around this one.
We've got Dr. Wendy for this presentation.
Right, I think everybody's gotten a chance to sit down and get comfy, so I'm going to make a start with a slight side check. Thank you for coming along. Lovely to see you on, see some new faces, and I can definitely see some faces I recognise from previous years. So hopefully you can all see the screen okay. This is a new location for me talk-wise, so we'll see how it goes. Feel free to move if you can't see the screen. So I'm going to talk about the ants of Borneo. For those of you that have been before, you may have seen me talk about the ants of Borneo before, and this is why this is part 3. So I've talked previously. So I'm really, really lucky in that every year I get to go to Borneo as part of a field course that we run within the university. We go and stay in an area called Dannon Valley at Field Centre and spend about just over a week there. And so every time I go, I see new ants and learn new things about them. So the first year I went, I got super excited about the ants that I got to see out there. My photography was questionable. It has gotten slightly better, but it is really hard when you're there with about 30 students trying to take some really nice photos of some ants, so you'll have to excuse the photography. And any video I take always has chatting students in the background, so you get the nice rainforest sounds and then really annoying chatty students in the back. So it's always interesting to hear what they're saying. So from the first time I went to Borneo, I'm an entomologist, so I teach entomology at Swansea University. I'm super interested in insects, so it was like I was in heaven. Obviously in Borneo, there's all things everywhere. But I hadn't really started to get into ants so much. That came later with the very first AntCon, actually. So Rich is the reason why I started to get into ants, being invited to talk at AntCon and then realising, okay, ants are pretty cool. I did my PhD on dragonflies, so I was a bit other way inclined. So the more I went to Borneo, the more excited I was by the ants that I saw. So I want to tell you a little bit about some of the ants I've seen. Lots of these groups I'm sure will be very familiar to most of you, if not all of you. And one of the first ants I realised I kept seeing out there was diacama. And I kept seeing them by themselves. I found it a little bit hard to recognise them first of all, but once I did and realised that they were pretty much always solitary, and if I got a good look, I'm getting old now, older, my eyesight is not what it used to be, so I struggle seeing up close like many old people. So if I can get a really good look, you can see, I don't know how well you guys from the back can see, but they're covered in these wonderful microsculpturing, so these beautiful almost fingerprint-like lines all over their body. So often you can see that and you kind of get your eye in on the behaviour of them. As I said, they tend to be solitary. Sometimes you see them catching material or carrying material by themselves. So I'm getting used to seeing those. And I find them really interesting, finding a little bit more about them. I'm getting warm. Thank you for being here, because I've warmed up enough to take my jumper off now. One of the things I found really interesting is that, like most ants, can pass each other food during doing something called trophallaxis. You may have heard of that, where they pass fluids to one another. These guys can't really do that. They don't have the equipment to do that. So actually they do something called pseudo-trophallaxis, where they're still able to pass fluids from one another, but not quite in the same way. So they're a little bit primitive in their behaviour and what they're able to do, but they're still obviously amazing to see. And depending on what fluid that they're passing, they'll change between kind of holding it in their mouth and holding it in their teeth, which is a little bit strange. Okay, obviously if I'm in Borneo, I'm going to see Myrmex. This is one of the first ants that I saw out there. The very first time I was out in Borneo, I spent a lot of time repeating the words, "Look at the size of that ant," in increasingly higher pitch. This was peak pitch, seeing these guys out there and then getting to grips with seeing them a lot on the forest floor quite regularly, doing their thing, eventually seeing majors as well as minors, seeing them basically going around about their business, finding some nests as well, so seeing them work within their nests. There we are, the one on the right hand side is just a little video of it just doing its thing on the forest floor, having a bit of a clean. I don't know if I can get some sound. No, I don't think we're set up for that. Probably definitely now. Let's see if I can play it again. Can you hear that now? Yeah? Yeah. Sounds of the rainforest, and probably some students in a minute.
Look at that little
It's just constantly noisy out there.
difference.
Different noise.
Yeah, look
You get a
at
lot
the
of
size.
frogs.
That's like.
Big.
Biggest in the world.
What was the little ant with them?
I don't know.
Tiny.
You can see, yeah, the tiny
Yeah.
one. You see that in some of the videos. You don't really notice it when you're taking the video. And then you look back at the videos and there's this tiny little, almost like a couple of millimetre ant wanders by. No idea what they are. So reading up about Myrmex, obviously it's a really popular ant. Lots of people know it exists. It's the biggest ant. And finding out actually that their kind of social system is perhaps more complicated than we know about or knew about necessarily, and that they actually have specialist foragers. So all the miners that we see, those are smaller ones, actually have specialist jobs. So some of them are specifically sent out to go and search for food, and some of them actually then carry the food between their nests. So they have a series of connected nests, and some of them will specialise on that. So that even within the miners, they have specialist roles. It's not something that seems to be terribly well known, but I find this super interesting in that even within this kind of caste system that we know about, they still have specialist roles. And it's not something we necessarily think of as ants having outside something like the leaf cutters, for example.
So it looks like the foreign ants now overwhelmed them and chased them off. Look, you just chased that one off.
So you get the narrations by the students, don't you? So we do some experiments.
They're on the honey again now.
So it's just to hear how interested the students are with what's going on as well. So we've done some experiments with the students while we're out there, looking at recruitment based on different food types across different species. So one of the things we do, we put like bits of chicken out, or in this case, basically sugar water, and look to see how the different species recruit other members. So to have an understanding of how they work cooperatively when there's different types of food. So that was an example of that. I don't know if you noticed, but there was a few different interactions going on in that one. Same student narrating. So this is, we found a nest. So this is one of the majors. You can see the difference in sizes quite clearly. So you've got a minor on the left and a major on the right. So much bigger with that really chunky head. And it's not an individual that we see terribly often because they're not out foraging. So it tends to be the minors that are out foraging and the majors that are basically at the nest, defending the nest. So it's really nice to see those species there. And then this is just, we found an old bit of wood, obviously breaking down, and I think they've basically established a nest within there. So we spent a little bit of time watching the individuals wandering back and forth with some excited students in the background. Okay, slightly different side to it now. So this is a major that I spotted moving quite strangely across the forest floor. With some help. It's obviously the kind of dark side of this. Hopefully the guys at the back will be able to see that clearly. So it's a little video. So this is one of the majors being transported across the forest floor as somebody's dinner.
That's great.
I spent a lot of time watching these tiny ants manipulate this really big ant across the forest floor, up and down. You imagine there's lots of leaves and twigs, up and down and through all these areas. I spent ages watching this. You can see his legs moving from time to time as well. I was hoping that it was just moving because they were holding on to them. Let's say that. So obviously I was interested then in what it was that was doing this move. And these little ants, so I've zoomed in on my picture, so it's not super high quality. But it's an Onyctus species, so this is an army ant species. So it's again quite a generic name given to the quite a large group of ants. So these basically undergo foraging raids, and they particularly focus on mainly things like social insects, so wasps, termites and ants as well. So it's not a big surprise that they found one of these ants.
How do they incapacitated?
I don't know. I'm guessing sting. Or they all operate together. I imagine it probably depends. It's a really, really big group, generally called army ants. So go on.
I read somewhere that smaller ants like that, when fighting large ants, they work as a team to dismember the ants.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't dismembered, but they were definitely carrying him. Yeah, and he was twitching a little bit.
I just read that somewhere.
Yeah. They definitely work together. So this is another group of ants that work together. That I started to see once I learned to recognise them. Started to see quite regularly out there. These are leptogenics. They have both a light and dark side to them. So the light side of them is when you see them in the day. They're incredible to watch. The video. So you see them moving prey. In this case, they're working again cooperatively to manoeuvre a spider that they've obviously caught. And carry that away. I've seen them also, most incredibly, working together to dig worms out the ground and basically pull the worms out the ground, which apparently is something they do quite regularly. The dark side of these is that they are very stingy, and you quite often come across them if you're doing night walks where they run up your legs and sting you, which is less fun. I think this species was Lagasex. It's really hard to tell them the species apart, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on which way you look at it, in Borneo there are a lot of ants. It's one of the real hotspots of ants, and there are about 14 species of Leptogenus out there, which you'd have to get specimens and key out to be able to work out which one's which. So some of them are more distinctly different, but some of them look really, really similar to one another. So often we can't get to species level with these things. Okay. Okay.
25 quid.
So outside the main forest, we get to visit a mangrove. So it's not outside the main rainforest, it's a mangrove. And these were one of the first ants I saw when arriving in Borneo, so they're a bit of a favourite, and I'm sure you probably all know what they are.
£25. What's that?
So obviously it's really amazing to see the weaver ants, to see them there, to see them again. They tend to be together but in smaller numbers. You often see them individually as well, and we have been lucky enough to be able to spot some of the nests up in the trees as well. So it's always great to see them. I said they're one of the first species of ants that I saw. Okay. One of the previous talks I did on ants Borneo and learning about some of the ants out there, looking at the research, and there was a lot in the media about exploding ants. Okay, so one of the things that I was talking about previously was ants that exploded. And there is a group of ants, they're called the Cylindrica group, which these belong to, that all have the ability to explode. They don't actually explode, they basically rupture their abdomen that has toxins in it, and then they smear it on would-be predators. Okay, so like many social insects, they give their lives to basically look after the rest of their colony. So these guys here, I don't know if these are explodents, so Coloboxus explodens. They look very similar, they could well be, but there are a couple of other species that look very similar, and again, you can't tell them apart, unfortunately, just by looking. You'd have to get them under a microscope and key them out. But we see these guys very, very often, and they do have the red and black markings associated with explodens as well. This is Cylindrica, which gives the group the name. Again, they have the potential to basically rupture and explode. Obviously, Coloboxus, we know they use their heads to basically be doorways. So you don't often get to see that. I've got one photo later on that I happened to catch one that had the door wedge. But this was a species that I saw for the first time last year, I think it was. Obviously recognisable with these distinctive red heads and black bodies, so it's really nice to see that. Okay, this is Leonardi. That's my bottom right hand picture. You can just about see, so feel free to get up and move if you want to. You can just about see this guy here has got his little flattened head. Okay, so that kind of doorway species. Again, they're still part of the Cylindrica group, so in theory they should be able to explode their bodies, should they want to, if they feel the need. Okay, we quite often see, short video, quite often see these particularly associated with dead wood, so on basically lying dead wood, big logs and things that are naturally fallen in the forest. And they seem to really enjoy living in those. Okay, slightly different route now. These have become my favourites.
Yeah.
Okay. My auto, apparently not his name. So, I haven't counted all the polyracus that are potentially in Borneo, but I think it's around 60 to 100 species. Okay, so they're a lot. They're really diverse group anyway. And we get a lot out of them. But obviously they're associated with those spines. Okay, so often by looking at where the spines are, so they can have spines right at the front, it's called pronotum, so pronotal spines. They often have them at the back, so metanotum spines, so that's the last segment of the thorax, and on the petiole as well, so that's more segment, that's part of, going into technicalities, originally part of the abdomen that's become in the middle. So when we're looking at polyracus and trying to work out what species they are, it's really helpful to look where these spines are, and that can often help us narrow down. But again, there are a lot of species that look really, really similar. There's a couple of species that, even though I sent them to Sam, and I have to give special thanks to Sam because I'm always sending him pictures of that. Sam, what's this, Sam? Sam, what's this, Sam? Found this new ant, what's this? And often you just can't tell what they are. So you can sort of narrow it down between a few species, but you can't always get to species level. Polyracus, of course, means many spines. So does everybody know what this is?
Armour. So should I say, is it armour? Yeah.
There is a suggestion that there is a subspecies called the fence that has the red abdomen, but that's sort of in contention. So some people think it's a subspecies, some people don't. Okay, so obviously one of the first ants I saw on arriving out in the forest that was most distinctive was one of the golden ants. So this is Polyracus ypsilon. It's the largest of the golden ants and most distinctive, and it's stunning, it's beautiful. It's a large ant. They often hang around together, so you don't tend to see just one, you'll see a few at one time. So obviously then really bright and distinctive. And they're named for the shape of their spines, which is the ypsilon symbol. Not very imaginative, but there we go. So this is some of them in action.
I like the colour as well.
They are
Gold.
They are so beautiful.
Isn't the gold to reflect the sun?
It does reflect.
So they can stay out of the hot.
No,
Look.
it's part of the defensive system. So obviously these spines particularly stop them being eaten, and the gold is again part of the defence. So there's lots of species that mimic the gold as basically a defensive mechanism. Particularly things like spiders, it seems to be a mechanism basically to stop them getting eaten. There's lots of mimicry of this gold. You'd think it would make them really stand out and be really apparent to predators, but it's almost like the bright colours that we see for toxic species, something called antisemitism, where you advertise, don't eat me, look at me, you really don't want to give this a try. So it's probably a similar
Maybe some of the desert ants, when they're like that bright silver, that's so they can exist in the sunlight.
Yeah, that's probably a solar thing. But it's deep in the forest, it's not warm. Well, it's warm, but not that warm. Okay. Very similar then, this is by Hamata. So another one of the golden ants tend to have shorter hairs on them, so shorter, what's called pubescent, so this hairiness. So not quite as bright and they're not quite as large. But sometimes it can be quite difficult to tell them apart. And I don't know how well you can see this, but this, the main spine here, the spines are close together and then they just separate at the top, whereas on Ypsilon they separate lower down. so it's more of that white shape. So we can tell them apart fairly easily, as long as I've got my glasses on, by those hooks. Okay, so bitomata just means double hook. So again, this is them in action. You get a lot of happy antennae wiggling, especially if they're feeding on sugar water that we've put down. Okay, new species then, Polyrhacus abdominalis. This is a species that's fairly common throughout Borneo. It's found more in urban areas as well. And it's one that we've seen fairly regularly out there. So the video is showing Polyrhacus abdominalis. It's trundling around by itself, but it's well within lots and lots of colobopsis, the red and black ones that may be explodins, and also some golden ants as well. So these are all existing. They don't really interact with one another beyond sort of going, oh look, there's an ant and walking past. So there's no antagonistic sort of arguments or attacking one another. They're just basically ignoring one another. So it was really nice to see three species together that don't take any notice of one another. This is not an ant, this is a spider. You get lots and lots of spider mimics, particularly of Polyrhacus. I thought this spider in particular was a really good mimic of abdominalis. Okay, in terms of the size, in terms of the posture. I've seen some spiders with golden hairs on them that obviously mimicking some of the more golden Polyrhacus as well. So there are lots of spider mimics out there.
What did the spider mimics do? Why are they mimicking?
Usually to get close to the ants.
Eat them or
So,
kill them?
yeah, you hang out, you look like something, you can get closer. Yeah. In some cases, I think with gold, ones with gold on them, a side sort of advantage of that is the defensive side, that's less likely to be by birds.
Is that why PJ wears an ant?
Possibly. Okay, this is our martyr. This was one that I learned about the first time I went to Borneo and was longing to see because I think they're really cool and see them fairly regularly out there, and I think they're one of the most beautiful species out there. I would say the ones with the red abdomens are sometimes considered a subspecies called defensive, but it is in contention whether that's the case or if it's just a slightly different colours of the same species. You get a lot of colour variations within individual species, we know. This was slightly strange sight where I found one with Colobopsis leonardi stuck on his leg. So I think they've been attacking one another, and perhaps the Colobopsis had died stuck biting his leg. But they were just sat there for ages with this Colobopsis stuck on his leg, and he's probably got his teeth around his leg. So I didn't know what was going on there. Just thought it was weird. So I took a photo of it. Okay. These are really little ant species that I see, and I always see them on vegetation, so on the leaves. They're small and they're shiny, and there's two species. There's Polyrhacus inermis and Polyrhacus tibialis. And the only way you can really tell them apart is that tibialis has spines at the back, basically the metalotor spines, whereas inermis doesn't, it just has spines at the front, so the pronotum spines. But because they're about that size, and obviously, as I said, the aging eyes, really, really hard to tell apart. So often I can only tell them apart with some questionable photos, and bearing in mind these guys are always on the move as well. So it's really, really hard. So I've got a photo on the right hand side that I think is tibialis. I can just about make out some spines at the end. But I really like seeing these. I think they're just because they're shiny and cute. This is one on the move. You hopefully get an idea of how big it is. Okay, this was a new species that I saw in January. So another Polyrhacus species. It's got really short gold hairs on the thorax, but the abdomen is really, really shiny. It's not super blue, but there's a hint of blue in there, and we don't know what it is. I've sent it to Sam. He was scratching his head. I've seen species that are only found in the Philippines that look very similar, but the blue is brighter, and they're only found in the Philippines, so we know it's not that. But beyond that, we don't know. So it's definitely Polyrhacus, but I don't know what species it is. So if anybody's got any good ideas about what it could be, please let me know. But it was obviously really exciting to see a new species. There was a few of them around, foraging sort of fairly individually. And they were about the size of the golden ant as well, so a good size ant, not indistinct. And you can see the gold when it catches the light quite distinctly.
Do you know how many ants are discovered each year in Borneo, or is it?
No, I think
Is it common?
we're still discovering, and obviously because they look so similar, and you have to have a really high level of expertise to know if it's a new species or not. Okay, another species here. This is Polyrhacus furcata. Recognisable by, it's got a lot of sort of indentations on the thorax. It's really distinctive. It's fairly small for a Polyrhacus, and it has these forked petiolar spines. Well, you can see that, perhaps not so well here, but it has got quite small spines. And then on the right hand side, it's having a drink with Polyrhacus inermis. Okay. This is the last Polyrhacus, so this is one, I don't know what it is exactly. So going to Sam, it could be a couple of species, it may be neither of these either. But it does definitely look like that. But there are almost 100 species recorded for Borneo of Polyrhacus. And it's going up each year as more are added, because it's a real hot spot for Polyrhacus, so it's not surprising we can't get everything to species. Okay. This is the last one then. This is Polyrhacus calypso, a couple of pictures of them. This is one we see fairly regularly. It's got just small spines, mostly out the back. It has got some out the front as well. It's quite a large species. Do you notice that it looks like another ant that we've seen? Diacama, yeah, absolutely. So it's a mimic of Diacama. Not only does it look like it or mimic it in terms of behaviour and how it moves as well. So alongside that, there's another species. This isn't Polyrhacus. It doesn't have any spines. It's a Campodotus species, but this is also a Diacama mimic. Clearly, it's got a lot of those characteristics. So there are a number of ant species that are mimicking other ant species. Again, for that kind of additional defence that you get with it. Okay, just to finish off, these are a whole number of ants that I've taken photos out there. So obviously I've seen more ants than I've shown you today, but it would be a really long talk with me going. And here's another picture of an ant, and here's another picture of an ant. There are whole groups that I'm really rubbish at Campodotus. There's too many of them, and they all look different. But I'm starting to get to grips with some of them. But there are loads of ants we see out there that obviously we don't have time to talk about today. Every time I go there and seeing new species, and as I'm learning, I'm able to recognise the ones I know, so that I know the ones I don't know, if that makes sense. So I'm getting to grips with them. So the one on the bottom right hand side I know is a Styxpanera. I see those almost every time. Myrmicaria, they are very, very weird. There's a lot of legs going on there. And some of the kind of Fidulae ones and all sorts. So there's still loads and loads of ants for me to discover out there. But I think that's probably enough for today. If anybody's got any questions, I'll happily answer anything that anybody has.
Can I come to Borneo? I want to see them yips a lot. Like, please. I don't.
You took the answer with the red and you said there's an argument over whether it's a new species or not. What's the criteria for something to be a new species rather than the same species but slightly different?
Old taxonomy. But we don't want to get into it. When new species are discovered, there's a lot of work that goes into working out if they are new species. So within collections of whatever animal we're talking about, museums hold collections of what's called type specimens. And they'll have a number of those specimens, but there's usually one type. And it's like the official example of that species. And then people will get what they think is a new species and compare it to that type and work out if it's different or not. Okay? Alongside that type, there will be other representatives of that species, and that will be kept as well, and they have an about that now. And then usually it has to be reported as a taxonomic paper, and then people have to agree with it as for every public science as well. So there has to be an agreement that it is a new species. So it's not like you go out there and go, hey, that's new, I'm going to write that down and give it a name. You know, it is scientifically robust and an important process.
Down to like hair placement in it and stuff. It'll be like if they got 3 hairs on their chest like this, it's this one, or if it's 2 hairs, like and stuff. And
the tiniest details of even the polyrachis, the shiny one that could be, I can't remember what the names were now.
for the Rastellar, yeah.
The brown one. That was down to portions of sizes of parts of the body, and when it comes to that, it's obviously very nuanced. Lots of these taxonomic kind of details are very nuanced. Is it wider than this, or you're calculating proportions of width versus length of? Oh, it was the length of the pedestal or scape. So you're looking at the size of a portion of the antenna to compare whether it's that species or that species. That's the level of detail that you're down to. So it is really technical.
On the same question, if you look at the DNA of the ants, or is it so close that looking at the antennae is better?
You could look at DNA, but you still have to know, you still have to compare it to something.
But to the data, to the base museum, would that be too different?
You wouldn't know if there were within species differences or how big those differences would be. And polyrachis is so variable, I would imagine that DNA is variable.
Really?
How many stages is it?
Yeah.
It's coming down in price.
Still,
Back to the DNA.
yeah. You see, to do the pounds and stuff,
£2 million.
Any other questions? Is there anything, thinking ahead, and I know that we're having a break next year, but is there anything that you would want to know about, apart from can I go to Borneo? Is there anything that you would want to see? If I could bring back videos or photographs or something, what would you want to know about or see?
Maybe the variety of polyrachis nests, like the woven ones, the kind of folded leaf ones, or the carny ones.
Haven't seen polyrachis
Soil
nests,
dwellers and
to be honest.
it's too high up or hidden away.
It'd be lovely to see them, but
Were you in it? If you want in the